In this video, let's discuss the effects of subsidies on market operation through a diagram. So before we discuss the details of the diagram, some of the details are very important here. First, we need to fully label this diagram. So this would be price and this is quantity or output. So here we have the demand curve. This one would be demand. And as you can see, this was supply pre-subsidy, supply pre-subsidy, and this would be supply post-subsidy. And as you can see, when there is a subsidy, the producers are encouraged to increase their output because they get a higher price now, and the consumers also benefit because they pay a lower price, as we have looked at the example through the equation. Now we need to label the equilibrium price pre-subsidy and post-subsidy. If this is the line for supply pre-subsidy, where they intersect is at price 30, and this we have already calculated through the equation, and the quantity demanded at equilibrium would be 300. And post subsidy, the price was 25. This is the new equilibrium at 25, and the quantity demanded has increased now to 350 because the consumers pay only 25 rupees rather than 30 rupees. So actually the demand has increased. So now let's try to explain what are the consumer surplus, the producer surplus, and the social welfare, the well-being, and also the deadweight loss. Now here, as you can see, the price has decreased from 30 to 25. However, the supplier or the producers, they actually receive at this quantity 350, they are receiving 35 rupees because the government is paying the extra 10 rupees because of the subsidies. So the cost is reduced now because they are getting a higher price at 35, but they are selling it, the selling price is 25, but the producers actually get 35 rupees. This we discussed in the equation, as we have seen. 35 rupees the producers are getting, but they are able to sell it at 25 rupees. So this is the price that supplier receives. So I'll just mark it here, or the producer receiving price, producer price. And this is the price where the consumer actually pays. So consumer paying price. So now we have seen this. So what is the consumer surplus pre-subsidy? So what is the consumer surplus? It is the price that they are willing to pay, the difference or the benefit that they get because of buying that product. So it is the price that they are willing to pay and the difference in actually what they are paying right now. So currently they are paying, in the new equilibrium, they are paying actually 25 rupees, but they are willing to pay 60 rupees. Pre-subsidy, they were buying the product at 30 rupees, but they were willing to pay at 60 rupees. So as you can see, the consumer surplus before subsidy or pre-subsidy, I'll put it as before subsidy because both these abbreviation, pre-subsidy and post-subsidy, has P in it. So consumer surplus before subsidy was, it's 60 rupees they are willing to pay, but they were paying 30 rupees. So it would be 60 minus 30 into, they are getting the quantity at 300. So 300 divided by, it is that triangle. It is this triangle, the consumer surplus before subsidy. So that would be 4,500. And consumer surplus after subsidy, if you calculate, they are willing to pay 60 rupees, but they are actually paying only 25 rupees because of the new equilibrium. So it is 60 minus 25. So that would be 35 into, now the quantity is actually increased to 350. So 350 divided by 2, that would be 6,125. So let's try to calculate the producer surplus before subsidy. Producer surplus is actually the price that they are willing to sell and the price that they are actually receiving. That is the difference between the price that they are willing to sell, which was actually 0 in the beginning, but they were receiving 30 rupees. So it is 30 minus 0 is 30. This triangle would be the producer surplus before subsidy. So that triangle would be 30 into the quantity was 300 divided by 2, which would be 4,500. And producer surplus after subsidy, as you can see, they are receiving now 35 rupees. So it is this price they are receiving, but they were willing to pay at 0. So it is 35 minus 0 is 35 into, now they are able to sell 350 divided by 2, which you will get 6,125. So what is the government subsidy here? So 10 rupees was the government subsidy and there are 350 units being sold. So the government subsidy would be 10 rupees into 350 would be 3,500. And what is the dead weight loss? Now, how do we calculate the dead weight loss? Now, if you see the consumer surplus before subsidy, I mean the total surplus, the consumer surplus and producer surplus before subsidy would be 4,500 plus 4,500 would be 9,000. And consumer surplus and producer surplus after subsidy would be 6,125 plus 6,125 would give you 12,250. So 12,250 minus 9,000 would be 3,250. Now this is the increase in surplus, increase in benefit in total, but the government is actually subsidizing 3,500, but the benefit is only 3,250. So this 250 is actually the dead weight loss. This part of it is the dead weight loss. So dead weight loss is 250. It is of no use. It is gone to waste actually, because 12,250 is the new surplus for both consumers and producers. Beforehand they were actually receiving only 9,000. So there is an increase of surplus of 3,250, but the government is actually paying 3,500. So the difference is the dead weight loss, which went to no one's benefit. So this is how we calculate the consumer surplus and the producer surplus, the government subsidy and the dead weight loss. So the only important reason is, or to understand this whole point of consumer surplus and producer surplus, is that you have always need to understand that what is the price that consumers are willing to pay initially and what is the price that they are paying right now. And if you look at that triangle, that area, you would find the consumer surplus. And for producer surplus, what is the price that they are willing to sell and what is the price that they are actually receiving. So then you can find out the producer surplus and consumer surplus. So this would be an easy way for you to find out all these government subsidies, dead weight loss and all the surpluses.